All three of these guys are very successful artists, comic book artists and freelance artists. And they all have different experiences that they can tell you about. So if you have any kind of questions about things like that, they can answer those. So don't be afraid to put a hand up and say you want to ask a question. Kay Hizzle does not have a microphone, but she'll go out there and stand by you and make you feel important while you ask your question. I'm gonna pass Tone the mic and we'll let him start and just let him tell you a little bit about himself. Maybe then you'll have something to ask a question about, and then we'll just kind of go down the line.
Pardon me. You know, it's funny, I was talking this whole time, and then all of a sudden you give me the mic, and then is this on? Oh, there we go.
It's not very sensitive.
Yeah. This? So yeah, I mean, I don't even know if I need this, but if you guys do want it, I'll use it.
If they wanted to,
What's the name of the panel?
It is the comic book independent creator panel.
I feel like
Making
you
a
made
living
that
as an
up.
individual.
You see how this guy, this former MC, went ahead and just grabbed the mic out of my hand? Like I put it right there for you to use, and you just snatched it.
It's
That's what I'm saying. It's like,
It's
yeah, MC, right?
I thought this was a panel on how to make money off OnlyFans.
All right, so
It's pretty much whatever you guys want.
well, that's what I was gonna say. It's like it could be anything you guys want. So heads up, my name is Tone Rodrguez. I draw comic books. I've been doing it for about 25, 30 years now. Born in Los Angeles. I actually live here. I live in Downsville, Ruston, Louisiana. So, you know, I love it out here. I don't want to go back home to LA. I want to stay here for the rest of my life. And I worked on The Simpsons. I've worked on Conan. I worked on a bunch of Image books. I did some work with John Carpenter and Kurt Russell on the Snake Plissken comic book. In addition to all that, I did a bunch of TV work. I worked on Dexter. I worked on The Office. I worked on a bunch of other Disney shows that 25-year-old kids, when I mention Dog with a Blog, their heads just blow up. In addition to that, I worked on The Simpsons, Futurama, and Radioactive Man comic books for about 15 years. And I think for the most part, in the last couple of years, I've worked on Stray Dogs and Feral, which are selling really good at Image Comics right now. And so that's pretty much my entire background. And I'll turn it over to Peter to give himself an opportunity to introduce himself.
Hi, everybody. Is this on? Hi, everybody. My name is Peter Smith. I started working as a cast member.
You gotta be right here.
Oh, right.
You gotta look like you're eating it.
Oh, sorry.
No.
Thanks, Steven Tyler.
I started working for the Walt Disney Company in 1990. I worked at the feature film animation department in Disney MGM Studios. I went to one of the colleges that Disney has a partnership with. Disney goes there, DreamWorks, Nickelodeon, called the Columbus College of Art and Design, graduated from there. I interned at Marvel Comics. I got to work on some books like I've helped in the bullpen with Spider-Man, Thor, the Avengers. I've done a lot of work in the tattoo industry, and I've been doing back in the comic industry for about the past 6-7 years, and have my own studio, do a lot of variant covers, done covers for Ninja Turtles, Frankenstein that I have coming out later this month. I'm working on G.I. Joe right now. Maleficent, a lot of Disney covers, Lilo and Stitch, Cruella de Vil. Still do stuff here and there with Disney. So yeah, that's pretty much it.
Hey, what's up, guys? I am William Russell. I'm probably considered the baby on the panel. I've been doing it now for 5.5 years. I've got about 110 published covers under my belt in that time frame. I've done retailer exclusives for Image Comics with books like Stray Dogs, Department of Truth, haha. We've done some stuff for Dynamite with Vampirella, Red Sonja, things like that. I've also done covers for the Do You Poo series, Hardly Thin, things like that. I also have my own creator-owned comic, Psycho Sal. This is about a serial killer in New Orleans in the 1980s. At the moment, we actually have one of the fastest producing indie books on the market. Most people are dropping 1 to 2 books a year. We're doing about a book every 2.5 months. But yeah, I've been doing it for about 5.5 years. It's my full-time career for that entire time. It's definitely been one interesting ride for sure. But yeah, you guys feel free to ask any questions you might have. Yeah, Chris.
I have a question. What would you say to people that want to get started doing something like this? They have a background in art, or they always had a natural nick for it, but they never really knew who to talk to or what avenues to go down to try to get the right people to see that they have this ability.
I usually say no. And I mean that with love and respect. I love what I do. I'd rather have a bad day of doing this than digging ditches. But I'm this close every couple of months to digging ditches. And again, I love doing what I do. I really do. And Stray Dogs has been doing so well that I don't have to worry about stuff right now. But the one thing I tell people about wanting to do this is if you want to do it, you have to you don't even have to be talented. This is the amazing thing about some of this comic book work. You have to have drive, you have to want to do it, you have to produce. I meet so many people all the time that say they want to do this and they're super talented, but they can't get out of their own way. They'll show me something and they redo something over and over again, and 2 years later they're showing me the same page they've drawn 3 or 4 times. And the thing is just get something done, get it out there in the world, let people see it, whether for good, bad, or whatever, indifferent. Just get work done and get people to see it. Now the problem is, how do you make money doing it? That's a big problem. Because again, I can't pay my bills with a Jimmy Halpert comic book. I can't pay my bills by giving them a signed copy of Pharaoh. I need to make money to basically pay my bills. And like I said, it's tough, but if you want to do it, anyone can do it. I really do believe. I didn't start doing it myself until I was 30 years old. So when I started doing it, I was like the oldest rookie. All the kids that I was coming into at the same time, they're all 20 years old, so they were, young, dumb, and full of, they were ready to just do this. And so I'm coming in, my difference was I had a work ethic. They just knew that they wanted to draw comic books. I knew that I had to get up every day, go to work, get work done, come home, get stuff done, blah, blah, blah. But yeah, if you want to do it, just do it.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. You couldn't ask for a better time in history to be an artist of anything. With social media having such a massive platform that you tap into. Can you guys hear me okay like this? All right, good. So you definitely couldn't ask for a better time. Social media gives you that massive platform. You can't hear me? Okay. To where you can be successful as an artist, and you don't even actually have to do covers for companies and stuff like that. I mean, you could just be doing commissions for fans base that you build, and you definitely have the platform for it. The other thing too, like you said though, you got to have the work ethic. When I used to be in the insurance world, and I was in there 7.5 years making $130K a year without breaking a sweat, and then one day sitting in a park doing paperwork, watching kids sitting under a thing with their family drawing. Something flipped in my head 6.5 years ago, that I was like, oh, I want to go draw. And so I started grinding art for 2 to 4 hours a day while working my full-time career for a year straight until I started putting myself on social media. Now I've been doing it, like I said, 5.5 years professionally, and I pull 14 hours a day, 6 days a week. I get usually 1 day off a week, and it's been that pattern for 5.5 years. But in that time frame, though, I traveled a lot of shows. I do a lot of covers. So you got to have that work ethic. You can't come into this. If you want to make a living out of it, you have to live it, you have to breathe it, and you have to crave it. And you can't listen to that inner voice that tells you you're not good enough, because there's always going to be somebody that runs circles around you artistically. There's tons of people that are way more art talented than I am, but they're not going to outwork me. It's not going to happen. Tone is definitely one of them, but now Tone has the same work ethic. But that's what you got to have. You can't sit around waiting for people to come to you. You got to hit the ground, and you got to be the biggest bull in the china shop. Post as much as you need to, promote as much as you need to, share as much as you need to. outrun the algorithm on the platforms and stuff like that, and just try to be the loudest artist you can be. And because whether they like you or don't like you, and you're going to have a mixture of those two, just concentrate on what you're doing and concentrate on the grinding you're trying to do, and you definitely can be successful with this. I mean, it's not far beyond anybody's reach anymore. It's not like pre-internet, pre-social media, where you were just crap out of luck, you know, unless you lucked up and found the right guy to see your portfolio. But yeah, I agree with that. It's got to be the work ethic, 100% it has to be.
If any of you guys are rough around the edges and you like to get fired up, William has some very good live videos that he does. And,
Angry artist for a reason.
and yeah, the angry artist is his handle, and he earns it. He will let the industry and whoever that deserves it have it, and sometimes they don't even deserve it, and he still lets them have it.
I just have zero time. I got zero patience for BS, man. This industry, you get out what you put into it. And the sad truth of it is, for anybody who's thinking about being art, I'm going to give you real truths about it. This will be one of the hardest careers you'll ever work. I've slung 8-pound sledgehammers breaking concrete. I've worked in 110-degree weather and 30-degree cold. You know, I've worked all types of jobs, from casino dealer and bartender to manual labor and everything in between. This will be the hardest you'll ever do.
Don't forget that.
Oh yeah. Well, bouncer's an interesting one, but this will be the hardest because out of all those jobs, it's either physically demanding, or it's mentally, or it's emotionally in some cases. Like in the insurance world, that was the only thing hard about it, was dealing with that part. But art will hit you on all three platforms. It's going to be physically draining, it's going to be emotionally draining, and it's going to be mentally. And so you have to have that steadfast attitude that I'm not being pushed out, I'm not going to be outworked, and I'm here, I'm going to make a name, and I'm going to be something in our community. And you know, you just got to outrun the naysayers and outrun your family telling you can't do it, and you got to outrun the people that are going to try to throw shade at you. So yeah, sadly, I have no filter between my brain and my mouth, and I'm sure it's bit me in my butt a few times, but I surround myself with people that I know appreciate what we do, that appreciate us being honest about what we do, except for Tone. He's still learning. We're trying to get him into the angry mob, but he's almost there. But go ahead, Peter.
I think my approach was a little different. When I was in high school was my first time that I ever went to, I ended up going to Disney World when I was in high school. And I grew up in the hood, like literally that's where I grew up. And so it was a very different atmosphere for me. And I guess part of what you see is when I grew up in Youngstown, Ohio. If you look it up on Urban Dictionary, it says where the devil dumps people that he deems unworthy to come to hell. It was a rundown city, used to be a steel mill city, and was really bad. So I decided that I didn't want to stay there, and I wasn't going to stay there. When I went to Disney, I decided, wow, this is something I would really like to be a part of. And in 1990, I went down, I got hired. My first job was, believe it or not, issuing strollers. And I was there for about 2 weeks, and I was transferred into the animation department to where I worked at a place called the Animation Gallery, the tour. I was able to go down on the floor with the animators and stuff and find out exactly what I needed to do, where I needed to go to school. So I took a different route, I think, than maybe Tone and William did. Yeah, I know. And so I went to the Columbus College of Art and Design. Like I said, it was a Disney partnership college to where they offered internships and stuff like that. But I didn't need to take the internship because I'd already worked in the animation department. So I'm sure you guys remember a little movie, 1995, that came out called Toy Story.
You were in that?
No, but it completely destroyed the animation, the 2D animation department. So I ended up interning at Marvel Comics instead, but never did I stop. You know, when I went to college, I applied, I got a scholarship to go to college. There's a huge difference between going to an art college and going to a liberal arts college. When you go to an art college, when you start off, you have fine artists, graphic designers, illustrators, animators, industrial designers, all kinds of different artists, but we all had to start with the same foundation program. When you go to a liberal arts college, they have to divide their money between law, between medicine, between arts, anything coming around. So they don't dump as much money and the focus is kind of scattered. That's why these big companies end up going to colleges like CCAD or Ringling or CalArts to draft artists from.
Did you say Ringling?
Ringling School of Art and Design.
No, I thought you meant Ringling Brothers.
No,
like that makes sense.
Well, that's where they're from, actually.
Really?
Yeah, Sarasota, Florida. There's an elephant sanctuary down there too.
God bless.
We'll have to go.
It tastes like chicken.
So, but anyway, just never lost sight, kind of worked. And it's just like these guys say, you have to work. It's not, I think one of the most profound things that I've ever heard from one of my professors at college was being a professional artist means that you have to draw even when you don't want to.
Yep.
Okay? It's a job. Don't make no mistake about it. If you ask my wife, she will tell you the same thing. It's a job. But the great thing about it is that if you're doing it, you love doing it, it's not as much work as maybe somebody going into a dental office or being an accountant or something like that. If it's something that they're doing for the money, don't ever do anything just for the money because you're not going to be happy. It's not going to happen. You're working 40 hours plus a week, you're not going to be happy doing it. If this is a field that you decide to go into, can you do it? Absolutely. Are you going to have to put the work into it? Absolutely. I was a college professor for 5 years. I taught character design and illustration. Right now, I'm the animation director for the Florida Film Academy. I teach everywhere from grade school all the way through adults. In fact, some of the covers of those of you guys who have been by the table, some of the covers that were colored by a 16 and an 18-year-old. Okay, Elle Mangian I've had for 4 years now. She's worked for IDW, she's worked for Dynamite, she's worked for Image,
She's worked for a lot of people. She's very popular.
She is a prodigy.
She
Really.
Peter's running a sweatshop.
I am. I have a sweatshop.
Well, I mean, it is
They call it the Florida Film Academy.
It is Disney.
But no, they come in and Elle did a lot of money this year. Just by doing portraits and artwork and stuff like that. She didn't have to get a summer job.
Yeah. And she got pizza.
And she got pizza. She didn't get pizza. We actually had a pizza party last week. But can you do it? Yeah. But I'll tell you this about Elle, even at 16, because she's very rare. I have watched that girl do studies on an artist called J.C. Leindecker that was actually
shirts.
Yes, and he actually was someone who learned, or Norman Rockwell learned from him. And so this is a girl who ends up doing studies based on his work. So she's never not drawing, she's never not doing anything. And that's at 16 years old. And it's rare to find somebody with that kind of work ethic at that age. But you have to have that. You have deadlines, and you also have to be aware you're going to do something, and sometimes somebody is going to be like, hey, you know what? We like it, but we want this. For example, Lilo and Stitch. I did a cover of Lilo and Stitch. My wife loves pink flamingos. I put a pink flamingo on the surfboard. Wasn't trying to hide it or anything. It was in plain sight. It was pink. It was there. They said, pink flamingos are more of a Florida thing and not as much of a Hawaii thing. And in typical Disney fashion, it's like, maybe you could put a turtle or a pineapple, or maybe you could do the one from the movie, which is what they really wanted. So that's what I gave them. But you're going to get changes. People are going to come back with revisions. You have to be professional about it. And my response to him was like, absolutely, I will totally change this, get it back to you. And then the turnaround was like in a day. You have to be willing to compromise. And when you are doing stuff for bigger companies, you have to understand that's not your property, that's their property. And you need to have respect for that and do what they ask you to do. So I think it not only comes down to to talent, it also, and work ethic, it also comes down to how do you work with people? Are you hitting your deadlines? Are you, are you easy to work with, or are you difficult? You have to think about all these things as you're getting into doing professional art, especially when it's licensed material and things like that. So.
Awesome.
The other thing too, keep in mind too, even though we're kind of giving you guys a little insight on some of the rough edges of it, I wouldn't trade it for anything. Regardless of all the hours worked, the travel, things like that, the minute you see the first fan come around the aisle and they spot you and they know you and they're waving and they're grinning, all the stress is gone, all the tired feeling is gone the minute you see that fan. And, and I think a lot of artists that's maybe been in the business 15, 20 years plus, etc., I think they do lose sight of that a little bit. The fans are what make this industry what they are. The fans are the bloodline. I can walk away tomorrow, this machine will roll on like I never existed. Same thing goes for somebody that's been in the business 30 years. The fans walk away.
Except for Tone.
That's right, except for him. He carries it all on his back. If the fans walked away, there's no comics, there's no Comic-Cons.
That's a good point. That's a real good point.
You guys are the lifeline. You guys that spend your hard-earned money to come out and see us, support us, buying prints, buying art, buying our books. You guys are what make it all possible, so I don't want you guys to think we're talking too harsh on the industry itself, because it is tough. But like I said, the minute you see the first fans, the minute they're waving, the minute they're grinning, every single bit of it's gone.
Got somewhere to be.
No, I just checking. Somebody sent me a message.
Oh, is your OnlyFans update?
All of that information, guys, you see how this works? All of that information that you just got was based off of one pretty basic question. Who out there? You have a question?
Yes.
Thank God.
You talk a lot about work ethic and stuff, and I was curious, how do you deal with burnout or
There's no such thing.
or that
No such thing.
that work-life balance between like you
Now
said,
that is tough.
Yeah.
Luckily I've got 4 daughters, and they're all grown. I've got 3 grandbabies now. I'm old, but you do got to figure out a way to do it. The biggest lie you'll ever tell yourself as any type of creator or artist or whatever is I don't have time. Unless you work in 2 8-hour jobs a day, 5 days a week, you got time. Put the phone down, get off your video games, get off YouTube. You got time. Now, if you got a family at home, little ones, spouse, stuff like that, yeah, it's going to be a little tougher. But when you really sit down and you break down a 24-hour time frame, you usually have anywhere between 2 to 4 hours a day where you're doing nothing but surfing the TV or chit-chatting with on the phone, texting, whatever. That's the moments you got to lock down and you got to do what you got to do. But burnout is a BS excuse. Artist block, that's a BS excuse. You just have to fight through it, because there's days, and they'll vouch for this too. There's days we wake up, we're exhausted. This is my 3rd show this month. I was in Texas, Tennessee, and I'm here this weekend. On top of doing all the covers and the commissions and keeping my deadlines in check and things like that. So you do work a lot of hours, and you do have to have people around you that can understand that. And I won't lie to you, that will be a tough one. It will be hard for a spouse, or family who work regular jobs, clock in, clock out, and go home, to understand that here it is 9 o'clock at night, you're still grinding from 5 o'clock that morning. So, but you do got to try to make time. You got to try to balance it a little. It's not fair to them, but they do, you do hope they're supportive of what you're trying to do. The best thing to do with any of the burnout or artist block or any of that is get up and do the work. Because that you let that start creeping in your head, and it will own you. So, that's the best way to get around it, is just not accept it.
I kind of have like a little bit of a different view on that. I agree that you have to work, but I also know there's fatigue. And quite honestly, if you're fatigued and you're working on something, the best thing you can do is get up and walk away from it for an hour or 2. Because if you don't, you're already frustrated. You may be tired. You're going to keep working on something, and it's not going to get any better.
Yeah.
Okay, so when you walk away from that for a couple hours, you're gonna come back with fresh eyes on it. You're gonna have something different. And as far as personal life, you almost have to make a balance. I love my wife. I make sure that I have time for my wife. I make sure that we have time to go on dates and we have time to do different things because guess what?
Loving, hugging, and kissing.
See, Tone knows my wife too. So.
But there's a big difference between taking an hour break, 2-hour break because you're getting frustrated with a piece and you're exhausted. But let's be honest, that's not what we're talking about as a whole. That's not what the majority of people will do. They'll walk away for 4 or 5 days or weeks and then try to jump back on the bandwagon.
Well, that's part of being a professional.
Yeah.
You have to realize that's your job.
The one thing that I was going to say, because you said you had a slightly different opinion about it,
Yeah.
mine's totally different. My thing is, yeah, I burn out all the time. But the thing is, if you have a job at Subway or you got a job at the phone company and you decide, oh, I'm tired, I don't want to go in, you call in, somebody else will take care of your job. It's not like somebody's going to wait in line for you to show up at Subway to go ahead and make their sandwich. But the thing is, I don't have anybody at home to do my work. I don't have anybody who can pick up a pencil or my pen. Hey, Chris, come on over. I need you to finish this thing up. And Chris will be like, it's not going to happen.
He's going to use a crayon.
Yeah, no, he'll do it. I'm fired. But the thing is, that work needs to get done. So, like I said, when I get burnt out over something, like you said, you walk away for a little bit, chill out. But you got to get back because no one's going to do the work for you.
And I'll tell you this with the Film Academy, with teaching at the Film Academy, there's times, and kids come in and they'll be like, oh, I have artist block. A lot of times, in all honesty, as an artist, your mind's going 50,000 miles in 50,000 different directions. Okay, so if I teach them something, if we're going over something like anatomy, sometimes it's not even that they have artist block, it's that their mind is trying to process all the information that they've had come in. And when they're doing something, they need to take a break. They need to let it kind of soak in. You're not a machine in the sense that if you work yourself into the ground, you're not going to do anybody any good. You know, you have to, and the thing is, it's kind of like what William said about the fans. You guys make this possible. Without you guys, there's none of this. And the way that I approach any project, believe me, there have been many projects that I've had that are like, how am I getting excited about drawing? Like I used to do tattoo flash for tattoo shops. I got to draw a sheet of butterflies. All right, I'm ready for this. Oh, you know what's next? Cupcakes. Let me get excited about that. You know.
You got me all excited.
I see right there.
I'm hungry. I want a cupcake.
Steak. No, I'm just teasing. But there were things that I would have to draw and design. And I guess in that sense, in doing artwork for the tattoo industry, it was like I had fans of my work in the tattoo industry, and it's like I need to give them a solid design. So at that point, it wasn't just me drawing something, it was me designing it and putting it together and making sure it was tattooable. Little advice for you, if somebody says they're gonna do a portrait on you this big, go to a different tattoo artist because that thing is gonna look like a black freckle eventually. But you would have to follow guidelines of certain artwork. Just did Frankenstein. So when I did the Frankenstein cover, they go, it's Universal Monsters Frankenstein. I'm like, oh, that's pretty straightforward, right? Boris Karloff was Frankenstein. Okay, I'm going to draw that, put that together, put the design together, send it in. Yeah, we forgot to let you know that we don't have the likeness rights to Boris Karloff. Oh, okay. So did I complain? No. I said, okay, no problem. Went in and changed it. It was just a miscommunication, a misstep, but it happens. And we had time to go in and change it and fix it. But you're going to get stuff like that happens all the time. Was it a little heartbreaking? Yes, because I really wanted the Boris Karloff, but at the same time, I'm happy with the way the Frankenstein came out also, and I'm happy for the opportunity to be able to do it. And I guess that's the other thing you have to look at too is, you know, Walt Disney had a saying, if there's something you want to do, dog it, chase it, go after it, work it, do it. But believe me, Walt went on many vacations and he loved what he did. He took breaks when he could. I know for a fact part of why you guys have those parks is because he used to take his daughters out on Sunday to ride a carousel and get them ice cream in a park.
Griffith Park.
Yeah, and his wife was like, these things are a mess, they're not clean, not this, and he said, well, I'm gonna build my own, and it will be clean, and it's not gonna be a mess, and that's what I'm gonna do, and that's what he decided to do. That was his dream. And you had, I know everybody looks at Walt and says, oh, you have Walt. You also had his brother who was a financial advisor,
Roy.
who was probably, Roy, he was probably not happy because Walt would do stuff like, you know what, we're making it a small world. I get that material is $4,000. Get it anyway. Roy will figure it out. But you had a lot of stuff. He was more worried about how things looked and how they came out than what he was about anything else. And that's him as an artist, but definitely do things that you enjoy, but also make sure that if this is something that you're picking for a living, don't make it about the money. Make it about what you want to do.
Yeah, you're not getting rich doing this, so.
Yeah, see,
Oh, so, yeah, but it doesn't count with you guys. You've been in business 50 years.
I haven't been into business.
He keeps
50
adding
years.
20
I know,
every time he
keeps
does
adding
it. It's crazy.
I told you.
Look, youngin, you're not guaranteed to get as old as I am
That's
right
right.
now, especially after this panel.
Your
God.
OnlyFans doesn't count. All right, so I think you guys.
You have
Who
to-
else had a question? You didn't? Who had a question?
Anybody have a question?
Over here, wait.
Yes.
What is your favorite character that you've either created or have worked on?
Oh, that's a good one. William, you got the mic? Go for it. Oh, no, I thought you had the mic.
I just got a mouth.
Yeah, I did.
I can talk
you
like
were
an
so
adult.
loud.
Mine's, as far as character to draw, is probably The Bad Who Laughs. That's my most requested, him and Venom. As far as creator, obviously, Psycho Sal is going to be my favorite creator-owned thing. Anytime you can push the limits with comics and especially being obviously a horror nut, that was going to be up my alley no matter what, which is probably why I enjoyed the Venom and The Bat Who Laughs so much, is because it has that dark kind of feel to it in general, but then I push it a little farther. I tend to draw them a little bit more horror, style. So what about you? Was it like Lilo and Stitch your favorite?
No. Well, not that I'm opposed to drawing Lilo and Stitch, and I get asked to draw Stitch all the time. But it's, I don't know. I don't think that I have a favorite licensed character that I like to do. I enjoy
Psycho Sal? Gotcha.
I enjoy drawing whatever that it is that I'm working on, and a lot of times, because of how I was trained in illustration, I can do everything from realism, which Tone can too. I've seen Tone do some amazing stuff. But from realism to animated to cartoon. And somebody had commented on my stuff. I had just done San Diego Comic-Con that they really loved how on model everything was. Like I just did Powerpuff Girls.
Yeah.
And it's completely different style than Lilo and Stitch or Maleficent. And so I think I find enjoyment out of whatever project I'm working on. I'll reference the model sheets, even if I'm doing a commission. Like I love drawing the Batman, Bruce Timm's Batman animated characters. They are so fun to draw and put a little twist to them. As far as creator owned, I have Grismelda Grimm that will be coming out later this year, and I have Chronicles of Zolaria. And I write and draw both of those. And I enjoy drawing them, I enjoy writing them, I enjoy creating the characters, but I don't know if I have a favorite. I think I just kind of shift into different gears and just enjoy drawing in general and creating in general. And being able to do different styles on different things, So I remember I was at MegaCon, somebody came up and they're like, can you draw Michael J. Fox as Marty McFly? And I'm like, yeah. And then somebody else walks by, because Elle's sitting next to me, and she does a lot of portrait work. And so I'm drawing this Michael J. Fox, and, pretty realistic looking. And he goes, oh, I didn't know you could draw realistic. I'm like, Elle and I look at each other. I said, who do you think trained her how to draw? And so, So it's definitely, I think it just depends on the project and just getting into that project and having a love and a passion for what you do. Like I wanted to draw Powerpuff Girls. I was drawing Powerpuff Girls. Mostly for Mojo Jojo, but the girls were fun too.
That's funny that you should mention that because I'm working on models. As soon as you said it, I was like, oh yeah, that's right. Because if you come by my table and you like look at the stuff, and what happens is people will see this and they'll see that and they'll see that. And there's the Simpsons over here, and then there's some TV stuff here. You know, like the horror books are over here, then there's Feral over here. And they look at it all and they go, oh, this guy is selling a bunch of other people's stuff. And it's all me because the word is versatile. I had a teacher, Mike Vosberg, who was Mr. Marvel back in the day before Ron Lim. He did every single Marvel comic book back in the day, but he's one of those guys that never became super famous. He wasn't the John Byrne, he wasn't the Walt Simonson, he was like the worker bee. They would get a hold of him on a Thursday afternoon and go, hey, we got a 22-page issue of Nova that needs to be done. And he goes, good, when do you need it by? We need it on Monday. He goes, no problem. And he'd take that book and he'd run off and he'd get the book done and whatever. And so I took a class from him, and the very first day he handed us his business card and he said, here, take this. And I'm like, ooh, like my first real comic book business card. He says, now you study that. I'm like, it's his name, phone number, address. It's like, holy shit, he gave me his home address. What the hell? And so he said, what do you see on there? And I'm like, I don't know. It's a trick question. I don't know. What does he mean? His Vosberg still spelled the same way. It's like I was trying to figure out what he was getting at. He says, it doesn't say I draw comic books. It says I'm a commercial artist. So when you talk about characters, it's like I got to work on The Simpsons. I got to work on Futurama. I've loved The Simpsons, and I've loved Futurama since I was a young man. I'm not going to say a kid, because I clearly wasn't a kid when it came out. I was a young man. But I loved it, and so I pestered my buddy to go ahead and get to draw The Simpsons. And then one day he hit me up. He says, we got a project for you. It was my first Treehouse of Horror. He sits there and says, all right, great, we'll send you the script, give us layouts in a couple days. I said, cool, give me the turnarounds. Oh, no, you don't understand. The Treehouse of Horror is a book that's like the artist du jour. It's like we're hiring you because we want you to do you on The Simpsons. And I said, okay, cool. So I get to draw it any way I want? And he goes, oh, absolutely. Then give me the turnarounds because I want to do them the way you guys do it. And it blew his mind because it was like everyone else who worked in that book, they were drawing, the characters off model and whatnot. And even I was off model, but I mean, I was doing my best. And basically by showing them that I wanted to do it the way they did it, I ended up working for them for 15 years. I wanted to do that. Even though I was doing superhero comic books and all this other stuff, it's like I wanted to do that. So like, I love The Simpsons, I love working on that. As far as something I created, I don't know. I'm creating all the time. I mean, William and Peter will tell you, it's like we're always kind of working on something. So, right now it's Feral. I love working on Feral. Tomorrow it might be Damn Girl, or it might be, Psycho Sal. Who knows? I just love working.
And I'll give you guys a good example, like Tone and I have known for each other for years, and one of the things is that, obviously I went to a college where this is structured, and this is called this, and this is called that, and this is called that, and we were doing that Comics Elite where we were in for the weekend, and they would do these Facebook Lives, and so we were talking as we were drawing, and he looked at me and he goes, well, I don't know that word, like I'm not familiar with that word, but he was already doing it in his work. So everything that I had learned technical terms for, he was already doing because he's been doing it so long. I was like, okay. And and you have to remember is that as an illustrator, where I went, when I taught at Youngstown State University, the first class they wanted me to teach was character design. And they wanted, half of the semester was drawing and the other half was going to be sculpting. And they had a sculpting teacher that was supposed to take over the second part of the class, and they wanted me to come in for drawing. And they're like, oh, they called me and they're like, you know, the sculpting teacher isn't able to do it, so we're gonna have to cancel the class. And I said, you know I sculpt, right? And they said, what? I said, it's on my resume. And it was funny because they told me my resume was like worth 3 master's degrees because of the experience. I said, yeah, I said, I've done signs for Universal Studios, McDonald's, Staples, we had to do giant push pins. Disney, we created ant hills for A Bug's Life that went in all the Disney stores. And so this happened to be a company that I worked for, and I said, yeah, I can sculpt. And they were like, oh, well, do you want to teach a whole class? And I'm like, sure. For $5,000 a month, I'm happy to teach a whole class. It's really interesting, and a lot of people, I have a lot of students that'll come in and say that, well, my style is this. No, your style is going back to Da Vinci and Andrew Loomis and learning anatomy, and then incorporating that into the style that you're working in. You have to be versatile. You have to be able to, you know, kind of like what Tone was saying.
That's the word, versatility.
Yeah, you're not just an artist, you're an illustrator, and sticking to those models. Doing gargoyles. Disney had called, actually I was with Marty Rosen, we were in the Magic Kingdom at 11:30 at night and get a message, the gargoyles cover was going to print on Monday. And they said, Disney loves your gargoyles. They said they were fantastic, they are on model, they loved them, they were perfect. They want you to draw Elise, who was in the middle of the cover, was a detective. Could you draw her in the animated style to match the gargoyles? Because I drawn her in my comic book style. And I'm like,
Which translates to sexy.
yes, yeah, it was a little
Too sexy.
Yeah, we had to close the jacket up, you know. There may have been a little bit of
Button up that blouse.
But so they had asked me to go ahead and change this. Well, it's right in the middle of the design, and guess what? Elle colored the cover, and she has school on Monday. So guess who had to do the whole thing? That would be me. So I had to redraw her, ink her, put her on the cover, and have her turned in by end of business on Monday. And I'm like, I will do it, thank you. And they thought I was gonna have an issue or something. I said, absolutely, this is their characters. I wanna make sure that it represents exactly what they want. I'm gonna go ahead and I will have it done. I will have it turned in Monday afternoon, and sure enough, that's what happened. So,
And the minute he put the phone down, he's like,
But you have to be able to adjust on the fly. I mean, there's moments where we're already slammed with cover work, and we'll get someone contact us like, hey, I need a cover for this book or that book. Okay, sure, when's your deadline? I have 4 days, and it's Friday. You know, it happens. And you know, you don't want to be that person, especially as an up and coming artist in the industry. I don't have time cannot be your answer. It has to be, sure, no problem, I'll get it
well,
done.
the minute you say no, they're gonna find somebody else to do it.
And they won't come back.
Yeah. No. Why would they? He said no.
Yep.
Yeah.
So be mindful of that too. But yeah, it's definitely one of those things. Like we always have tons of favorite things to draw. You know, it just bounces from moment to moment. But,
But doing drawing is like different than like driving a truck.
Yeah.
You know, it's like if you want to hire somebody to drive a truck, you want somebody who knows how to drive a truck.
Yep.
If you get a job doing some art and you don't know how to do something, take the job and figure out how to do it, because I've learned so many things just by doing it.
Yep.
Again, when I did the Jimmy Halper book, I had no idea how I was going to do it.
Yeah.
And we stayed up all weekend and we just did it and got it done and turned it in on Monday and everything was great.
Yep.
Yeah, you figure it out.
The most important thing for them is, you know, whether it's commissions for clients, the most important thing is getting it done in a timely manner or meeting that deadline or whatever it is. So even though there's characters we love to draw and we would love to draw that character as much as possible, you got to be willing to draw stuff you have no interest in whatsoever. And you got to be able to do it in those time frames and stuff like that. So who's got another question?
well, hold on one second. Tone, whether you know this about him or not, is fast as lightning.
Yep.
He'll whip something out. So we're working.
Stop it, dude. People are here.
We're working.
No.
We're working
So
on.
sorry.
We're working on commissions, and he'll be like, he'll look over and be like, "That's done." I'm like, no, it's not done. It's done. And I will bring like a portable art studio with me every convention I do, and And so Tone will be like, it's done.
We had to do those Comics Elite things, and I think I did like 68 of them in the time that
I did
our
like-
buddy did like 12. And
Yeah, because it will not leave unless it looks exactly.
Oh, what are you implying?
And that's an imaginary world. That's something you, as an artist, you have to let go of. Or you
So
sit there and tweak it to death.
he thinks that that's what you have to do. That's not what I do.
Let it go. Let it
so-
go. Move on.
So Tone's like, stop it, you're gonna make the rest of us look bad. You're doing it. I've had people come up and look at a couple commissions and they'll be like, is that a real cover? No. Well, I mean, it is, but I drew on the cover. So I can't go into like a store and buy it. No, it's an original. Are you sure?
Pretty sure.
Pretty sure I drew it.
It was AI. Don't let it fool you.
So yeah, you'll get that, but that's just kind of, I guess, a quirk that I have here, so.
All right, who's got another question?
Unless it could be answered really quick.
We'll try.
Yeah, they've got
Yeah,
like,
we finally got past Peter.
All
So
right, what's Marvin,
What were some of y'all favorite comic books or cartoons growing up?
Favorite comic book, cartoon?
Cartoons growing up.
Super Friends. Comic
Hey,
book.
damn, you
Avengers
are-
Annual 10.
you are old.
oh, hold on, Marvin. Do you remember Brainiac with the short pants?
Yeah.
He's like, no, he was the Skull. I said, we had a discussion yesterday.
We
He said,
did.
no, he had the short pants, McFarlane.
I just realized he's wearing the Marvel
Yeah,
thing. I said
I
Super
know
Friends.
that.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
I'm so sorry. I wasn't trying to like point that out, but yeah.
See, I grew up on G.I. Joe, He-Man, Transformers.
Okay, it's okay.
You know, I wasn't as old as growing up on that Super Friends stuff, you know, from the, what was that,
Whatever.
50s?
That was not the 50s, it was the late 70s. I would say Super Friends, but also Transformers, G.I. Joe. In fact, Tone, we had a discussion, one of his favorite characters, I'm doing G.I. Joe #1 now. One of his favorite characters is rock and roll, and that was a choice to put on the cover, so I put him on the cover.
He said he was going to give me the original artwork too.
Yeah.
That's what I heard.
Yeah, sure.
All right, what you got?
and I think we need to probably wrap it up, but we got like 4 minutes, so we can answer another question that like he just asked.
Another question, right here.
Going off the gargoyles thing, did y'all watch the original before you got?
I didn't have to work on it, so no, I didn't.
Okay, with gargoyles, this was hysterical. Disney will send you guidelines a lot of times for what you can put in and what you can't put in. All the gargoyles have 3 toes. There's no guns. There's no like tight clothing, anything like that. So I'm like, I'm excited to do this. This is my first Disney cover I'm doing. I get in, start doing it. I go ahead and put the Gargoyle series on for like background, and then eventually, you know, you kind of look up at it and stuff. Opening scene, they're shooting at each other in cars, but we can't have any guns in it. And I'm like, okay. And then you'll pull reference to stay on model. So I pull reference of Bronx off of Disney Wicca.
Oh, no.
He's got 4 toes. So I called somebody I knew at Disney. I said, I don't know how to tell you this. He said, what? I said, I'm doing a Gargoyles cover right now. He said, one of the things was they all have 3 toes. I said, yeah. I said, on our Wicca, he has 4 toes. They're like, get out of here. And I said, and it's a screenshot from the animated series. So there's no way to erase it because we're not going back to a 90s cartoon and giving him 3 toes. So yeah, it was interesting. But yeah, it's funny. It was funny. So, but other than that, though, it was fun to work on, definitely.
All right, guys, y'all give them a round of applause. Thank you guys so much.